Right, we have a live button. Fantastic. Yep, bright yellow live button, but no viewers yet. We scared everybody away last week. Yeah. Oh, it's cold here today. Yellow live button, but no viewers yet. Ah, I'm hearing myself. Hang on, I've got to shut my volume down. Scared everybody away last week. Oh, it's cold here. Yellow live button. Ah, I've got to shut my volume down. Sarah, I think you've got one open as well. Sarah, turn it off. Turn it off.
I'm not. It's not me. It's good. It's just weird.
There it is. There, gone.
Is that better? Gone. Yeah, that's better.
Far too many windows open. Okay, oh, wow, 26 viewers, 27 viewers, fantastic. Yep. Right, I think we should get started. So, morning everybody, or afternoon rather. We hope you all had a good weekend. I'm sure it was better than ours. as you'll hear in a minute. So perhaps you could just check with some thumbs up or hellos or something that you can see and hear us okay. That'd be brilliant, because we want to make sure you get all the feedback loud and clear on topic 1. Sarah, are you in the YouTube window? Can you see if there's any comment?
I am in the YouTube. Yeah, I am in the YouTube window. There's lots of good mornings and hello.
Brilliant. Hello. Good morning.
I'm just typing up a comment to say. I'm just typing a comment to say that that I'm on a borrowed Wi-Fi, which isn't as good as my mobile data, and apologise in advance for any technical glitches.
Right. Okay. Well, you're holding up fine so far. Great. Okay, we've had a couple of pictures as well over Twitter, including one of a dog. Fantastic. So keep those pictures coming in. It's a bit grey here today, so nothing very exciting out the window at the moment. Anyway, right. The purpose of today's session, all chit chat aside, is to go through the feedback with you on your topic 1s, which should all now be complete for everybody. And I've already posted the topic 2 question and notes, and your task by the end of today, midnight your time, is to do your first post for topic 2, and then your comments and summary for topic 2 by the end of tomorrow. So it's all going to come up pretty quickly this week, because after that we've got topic 3 Wednesday and Thursday, and then you start topic 4 on Friday. So we're going to be galloping through a lot of stuff, and it's important that you all keep up to date. It's also important, I think, that we use this session now to give you some quite detailed feedback on topic 1, and then the whole point of that is so that you can take it on board and not repeat any of the problems that we've seen in topic 2, and indeed actually improve your topics as we go through the module, which is the whole idea of how it should work. So I've written quite a long blog post. It's a very long blog post. I know we tell you off for writing loads of text, but I think given that it's feedback, and hopefully constructive feedback, that you'll forgive me for that. It's still in the draft folder at the moment. I'm going to talk through it in a minute, and then I'll post it as soon as we finish the session for you to read. So please do read it. That's actually, I think, one of the first things I wanted to say about topic 1 was that some people just didn't seem to have read the instructions. They hadn't read things like how to do the self-marking, even though we talked about that in the Friday session, and it was in the summary blog post after the session. It's also in the study guide. It's at the top of your feedback forms, and we still had approximately half the group didn't do it at all. So then we had to spend time chasing that up, which was a bit frustrating. And also, in some cases, people were not even reading the topic notes, as was evidenced by the answers that they gave to the question. So please, we give you the information in those notes for you to read, and then to follow up through the links, and also your own further links the whole point of this course is that you learn by doing that reading and then reading what your colleagues have interpreted from that and commenting and reflecting on that process. That's how the whole learning on this module works. So if you don't actually read the stuff to start with, then it's you're not giving yourselves a very good chance of doing well. Now we know topic 1 doesn't formally count, but it does count in the sense that it's a practice for you, and if you put the effort in and you get feedback and you know exactly where you stand, then you should be in a good place to hit the ground running with topic 2. Anyway, I'm going to shut up for a minute. Sarah, how are we doing? Aside from gulping your coffee, is there any questions or comments so far?
There are no more questions or comments. I can only hope that everybody is listening to you and hanging on to every word.
Yeah, Sarah's gonna back me up here. We've got an expression in the UK that you might have heard of. It's good cop, bad cop, and it basically means when you've got two people like Sarah and I in a situation like this, I do the telling off, and then she comes in and is nice to you, so that you go away feeling all happy. So that's what we're going to do. Hopefully, what we're going to do this morning. So right, anyway, my blog post. Right, I'm just going to remind myself. I'm going to look at it on the screen so that I don't forget anything. I wouldn't want to leave out any of my rant, would I?
No.
Right, where have we gone? Edit post. Okay, so like I said, I haven't actually posted this yet, but I will hit the button as soon as we've finished. So I'm just going to read through it and make sure I don't forget anything. Right, okay, there's lots of useful feedback here that you really should incorporate into your topic 2 work. So please read it carefully. I've put in capitals. So that's what the first paragraph says. Okay, in the second paragraph, I talk about your individual feedback, which is on your own Google document. So what we did basically was we read through the comments, also the particular criteria that you'd marked in yellow that you thought applied to your work. And we've added comments, or we might have changed the category using green. So if you, for example, put a highlight in the yellow, put yellow highlight in the middle column, for example, then we might have added green and a comment in either the box below, or the box to the left or the box to the right, depending on whether we thought you'd been too hard on yourselves or whether you'd actually awarded yourselves too many marks. So if you see a feedback form without any green, then that means we've agreed with all your marks and that you really do understand what you're doing and what you need to do to improve. Now, actually, I found in the ones that I marked that in many cases I did agree, and if I didn't, it was only a very slight change that I made. And I probably made as many upward changes as I did downward ones. So, it's really not about, us trying to catch you out here. I think in some cases you underestimated your work, and we felt it deserved more marks than you'd allocated. Is that fair, Sarah? Do you think, did you find the same?
Yeah, I found that either it was bang on, or you'd wildly overestimated how good you thought it was, or you'd wildly underestimated how good you thought it was. But that I think that's to be expected, particularly for you as a group, because logging is really new to, I think, pretty much all of you. So it is going to take you a little while to get pitched quite right. Having said that, though, there are a couple of comments. I don't know whether you're going to mention audience, whether you want me to do it.
Yeah, I'll come to that in a minute. Yeah, I've got it further down the list. Yeah, thanks. Yes, okay. So, all right, so there's a range then. Certainly from the one Sarah marked, it seems that some of you weren't quite as accurate as you might have been. But if you don't understand where there are differences, please just ask, or add in a comment. If you add a comment to the document, it will come through to us as a notification, so we'll see that there's been a change, and we can go in and see whether you need further feedback or have a particular question that we can address. So please make use of that. Okay, so that's the next section. I'm just scrolling down a little bit. Right, marking criteria. Okay, some of you, I think, didn't read properly what the actual marketing criteria said. In some cases, you'd highlighted in yellow down a whole column. So for every single aspect, you'd indicated the same mark, which, you know, may well have been the case, but I think the ones where it was a bit more fragmented and you've given yourselves higher marks in some categories than others, I think to me that indicated that a bit more thought had been put into it. Because I think it's quite unlikely that you would, in all those different aspects that we're marking, feel that you achieved exactly the same level. And some of them are very obvious. You know, you really can't mark yourself in the box which says self-created video if the whole post was text. I mean, that's just obviously wrong. So I think a bit more careful reading of the criteria and really thinking, well, you know, what actually did I do or what didn't I do is called for if you're really going to get the most out of that. Because by going through that process, you know what to aim for next time, which is the whole point. Okay, so as should be fairly obvious, if you look at that feedback diagram, the further to the right your marks are, the higher they are. The further to the left, the lower. And if you look at the headings at the top, then you can see on the left-hand side, it's basically kind of incomplete or very descriptive work as the header. And then moving across, it becomes more analytical and evaluative towards the right-hand side. So obviously, I think if you're looking for higher marks, then you need to focus on taking a much deeper, more analytical approach rather than just describing and reflecting back to us what we can already see, what we already know that's been given to you in the notes. So if you find you've come out sort of fairly middle of the road, then that's probably the main reason that, you know, you've just kind of been back to us what we originally gave to you and not really added anything that's new or taken it to a different level. So please bear that in mind particularly if you're aiming for very high marks. Okay. Oh yes, this is a particular rant that I wanted to, a particular aspect of the rant I wanted to emphasize. Please avoid totally incorrect, wrong statements like everybody is on the internet or everybody has a smartphone. I saw this on several occasions and it's basically just wrong. It's wrong and there's no place for it in your work, in any of your modules. It's, you know, it's opinion and it's not even correct opinion. And there's no evidence to back that up. I mean, I know Singapore has very high levels of smartphone usage and very high levels of internet access, but it's not everyone, even in Singapore. What I would like to have seen would have been some actual evidence. So, you know, thinking about, you know, moving your marks across to the right-hand side, it would have been really good if someone had dug out some recent statistics, for example, showing just what percentage of the population do have smartphone access. And I'm sure you could find that broken down by demographic characteristics as well. You know, freely available online information would tell you that. And that would hugely add value to the statements that you make if you can say, you know, as evidenced in this report, but with a link to the report, you can see that Singapore has very high levels of internet access, blah, 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 and go on and make the point that you make. That's much more effective than saying sort of very vague statements like most people are online in Singapore, which is probably true. But the worst of all is saying things like everybody is online, because that's basically just wrong. Now, that was my little rant. Sarah, was that fair comment, do you think? Did you get any of those?
Yes, I did get one of those, and I, whoever it was, and I can't remember, I put a comment on the bottom. I said, you know, you can't say this because it's patently untrue. And if you're going to make these kind of statements, you need to back it up with evidence. I'd also want to say something about the kind of evidence that you might want to use. So a blog that someone else has written about a research paper that they've read is secondary evidence. So you want to make sure that you go back to the primary source. So, for example, if you wanted figures about who's on the internet, someone like Pew Internet Research Centre be a good place to go. About where you're actually getting your evidence from and find a primary source, a research paper or something, and don't rely on what someone else says.
yeah, the government statistics. This kind of information is very readily available in a huge amount of detail, probably far too much information than you'd really need. So it's not difficult to get hold of. So yes, I mean, Sarah makes a good point. Evidence is one thing, but evidence from a credible source is really what you're after. Okay, how are we doing on questions or comments? Have we driven everyone away yet?
So we've still got a variety of smiley faces and thumbs up.
Good.
No question. I'm thinking they're still listening.
Good. I hope they're listening. Right. Okay, so I'm just scrolling down my blog post a bit further. Right. Okay, all right. I promise this is my last ranty bit, okay? Now, in the notes that we gave you about the whole notion of digital natives and digital immigrants being a very outdated but still too widely quoted argument based on people using the internet well if they're young and badly if they're old, being replaced by a framework of residents and visitors, which is much more about how people behave online, regardless of how old they are. We told you all of this in the notes. It was there in black and white, and yet I still saw posts from people describing themselves as digital natives. And that really indicated to me that not only had you not read the reports that we linked for you, you hadn't even read the actual introductory blurb that we gave you in the question. And I find that was really quite disappointing, because it's really a fundamental point that's going to crop up throughout this module. And as marketing students, it's really important, I think, that you understand, whatever company you might be acting on behalf of as a marketer, you need to understand how your customers behave. And as many of you have quite correctly noted in your examples, plenty of older people use the web really well, plenty of younger people don't. So please don't go calling yourselves digital natives, because the whole point of that topic was to show you that this is something that's basically wrong, but has still managed to catch on. So have you got anything on that, Sarah, you wanted to add? Do you think I've been
Yeah, I know. But I see. This comes back to something that I've been marking the other cohort, the UOSM 2033, who are doing online, who've just finished posting on online identity. 2 questions would be, does it matter? We've all been on the web for long enough. Does this whole thing about online identities actually really matter at all? And my second question might be, well, how is technology shaping our online identity? So this is a bit of a prompt almost for topic 2. So lucky you're getting my thinking before you even post. So that's my idea of critiquing the sources that are given to you. You have to read them through and think, what's missing? What aren't they saying? Is there a different way of looking at this? Accept what these sources are telling me. Think of it like that, and then you'll begin to really critique and analyse what's being given to you. Now, I would argue that 2 entities, because of the very way it's set up. So, for example, Instagram makes us post pictures because that's what it's all about. So what are we going to post? We're going to post pictures of our lovely food and lovely things. Online identity that we perhaps didn't intend, weren't aware of. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. So you need to stop just accepting what's been given to you at face value and think about questioning it, what's going on behind. And you can also use that in your comments as well. Question what people have written. Have they missed something? Is there something else they could have looked at? That will also lead to dialogue, and then your marks begin to go up.
Great, thanks very much, Sarah. Okay, I've scrolled down through, my post really is long. I've scrolled down through the comments I've made on that. You can read all of this afterwards when I put the post up, but I didn't want you to be reading it while we were actually talking. So I think that's enough on the ranting side. Just as a practical point, I did notice that some of you still aren't sourcing your pictures correctly. This is something else we spoke about on Friday, making sure you have permission to use any pictures, or that if you've created taken your own pictures or created your own diagrams, that you indicate that they're your own and that they've not been taken from somewhere else. I have put in another link to the post about sources of copyright-free photos. We discussed a few of those on Friday too. So please make sure going forward that you're very careful about that. I don't want to see any source Google notes in topic 2, because just because you found something on Google doesn't mean you have permission to use it. Another practical point about structure and layout of your blogs. Again, we did speak about this in one of the sessions last week. Have a look at your blogs from the point of view of someone who didn't actually put them together and is reading them for the first time. Make sure, please, that it's easy for people to find your work. Some of you have chosen themes that are great because you open up the link and there are 2 posts right in front of you and you can just read them one after the other. Others have chosen themes where it's more complicated and you've got to move back to the home page and then go and find the next post, or there's a link to it hidden at the bottom of the screen somewhere. And that's really quite frustrating for a reader. And again, thinking about this in a marketing context, if you were working on a company website or a company blog and you were having customers that you wanted to read your material and hopefully click through and buy your products, then really you've got to think about usability and how easily people can find what they're looking for and actually move around your site. So please, some of you all of you, take a look at your blogs. I'm not saying they all need to change, but it's a good exercise to do. Look at your blogs from the point of view of someone who's never seen it before. Can they find what they're looking for very quickly and easily? And if they can, then I'm sure you'll find you get more comments too. I haven't analysed it, but I strongly suspect that people who've got very easy to navigate blogs with catchy titles and interesting images and graphics are far more likely to get readers and comments than those who haven't. Okay, is that fair comment, Sarah?
Yep, that's fine. I had a couple of difficulties finding comments, but I'm going to do a blog post on that later, so I won't say any more about that now.
Okay, right. Yes, language, plain English and correct spelling. Slang and oversharing is not a good idea on a blog. One of the topics you're going to be doing this week, topic 3, is about building a professional online profile and actually making sure your work is best placed to put in front of an employer, and thinking about things like your LinkedIn profile. So it's good practice right from the start to make sure that anything that you post on your blog, whether it's one of the posts that we're directly assessing or the about page or anything else that you might put on there, make sure you're happy for a potential employer to read it and wouldn't be embarrassed by anything that they might find. You should really see this as an opportunity to impress an employer, not to put them off. And I think some people are a little bit too casual in the language they've used, and really, again, think about that from the point of view of someone else looking at it for the first time. What kind of impression does it give? And I think making sure that everything you post is professional and that you'd be happy for anyone that you know or any potential employer to read it is a really good test to put yourself through. Okay, I'm ranting again. I said I wouldn't rant anymore. Right, how are we doing on questions, Sarah? Is there anything else coming up?
No, so there was a question about referencing, which I've answered in the comments. Again, no questions, but again, I think it's because people are listening. You're obviously and so people, I'm hoping, listening and taking it in.
Okay, right. I'm just looking down through my posts. I'm nearly at the bottom, honestly. Right. Oh yeah, referencing is the next paragraph actually. So yeah, there's a note about that. Again, some people didn't reference at all. Please make sure that you do. But we don't really mind what style we use as long as it's there somewhere and that ideally is linked directly to, so that we can go to the source. Right. Just scrolling down a bit further. Oh yeah, comments. Yes, yes. Sarah's just said that she's going to do a blog post about this, because some of you, I think most of you have now got the idea that in your reflective post you give us links to the comments you've made on the work of others, which is great. But a lot of those links are going only to the blog of that person. They're not going to the actual comment itself. And some blog posts have got 15 or 20 comments on them. And it's really quite difficult for us to scroll down through all those comments and find the right one that we're looking for, particularly given that the author is really only shown as a username. So it isn't necessarily very obvious who's made each of those comments. So Sarah's going to be doing a post which will demonstrate exactly how you provide a direct link to a comment rather than just a general link to the blog. And if you could get into the practice of doing that, it would really make things so much easier and look, again, much more professional. So it's all part of putting across your work in the most professional looking way. So that's something else that's going to come later on today before you do your topic 2 comments. Okay, I'm at the bottom of my post. Gosh, it's 1155 words. That is probably the longest blog post I've ever written. Yeah, so apologies, it is all text and it is quite a bit of a rant. And clearly a lot of you aren't doing those things. You're doing some really good stuff. So please don't feel that this is a general criticism of everybody. We're trying to make sure that people have the best possible chance of doing well in topic 2. And obviously some of you are very good at reading instructions, and we were delighted to see some really good posts as well. So I think, Sarah, have you got some particularly good examples that you wanted to share?
Oh gosh, now you've put me on. I can't remember the name. So there was one person whose mark I put in top band, but the one under the 60, 70 thing, is it? But I'm let me see if I can. Right, give me a minute and I'll find it.
Okay, I know Nick, who's still sending himself in Mauritius, sent through that he was particularly impressed with Norman's work. So Norman, if you're watching this, that's a big thumbs up for you from Nick. And of the ones I marked, I was particularly impressed with Maureen's, which I thought was a very good first effort. And we're going to be sending as well today some tweets out which give you links to work that we found to be particularly good and worth taking inspiration from for topic 2. Okay, I'm just going to see if there's anything come up on Twitter. Any more nice pictures, for example, would be good. Hang on a minute. Oh, there's no tweets since mine 47 minutes ago. That's a shame. I think we've stopped people from sending pictures with all our ranting, Sarah. So it would be great if you could send through some nice pictures.
The 2 top marks I had was Leela and Teresa. Jeremiah, but Jeremiah didn't do a self-assessment.
Ooh.
I have marked work. I've not put anything more specific or any comments. And I looked, he hadn't done a self-assessment.
Okay. Yeah, I had 1 or 2 people with missing bits as well, which I've indicated with a comment. So please could you look at those and fill in any missing information. So I'm just reading through the questions people have raised. There's one from Maureen here saying, I would like to ask if we have to put in-text citation for every reference we use. As long as the references are there somewhere, they don't have to be in the text, but I think it is good practice. And particularly as it gives you the opportunity to say, to support exactly the point that you're making with a reference. If they're just at the bottom in a list, then it isn't always obvious, which points have come from where. So I would say, as long as your references are there, that's fine, and we don't mind whether you use a number system or a name and date system. But if you put them in the text with a direct link, that's probably ideal, really. Oh, Norman said thank you for the thank you. Great, brilliant. Okay. So if you've got any, we've spoken a lot, or I've spoken a lot this morning, and if any of it wasn't clear or you want to ask questions, please pop something in the box, or send us a thumbs up if you're understanding and it's all making sense. That would be great. I'm just checking to see if there's anything. Nothing new at the moment.
My comments on YouTube, the most worrying thing for us is when we don't get any contact at all. So if we put a comment asking for your self-assessment, or I've done a couple of comments on Twitter where I've asked for people to get back to me with an up-to-date blog address or whatever it might be, and I get nothing. Out there who has got a Twitter account that I've tweeted 3 times and still not got a response from. And it worries us more than anything. We feel like you're out of the loop, that we're here to help you in every way that we can, bar doing it for you. And if you're not joining in the Hangouts, or you're not tweeting, or you're not responding, we feel like we've lost you, and that's the worst thing of all.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because obviously we. Oh, hang on, sorry, Sarah. I lost you there for a minute, Sarah. Sarah,
I'm still here. Yes. Oh, hang on. Hang on. Sorry. Is that better?
That's better now. I think we were both talking at once for a minute, but I couldn't hear you. So, could you just say again the last point that you made? Because I think we probably just confused people by both talking at the same time.
Yep. Sorry. I was just saying that keep in touch with us. So if we ask you to do something via a comment on your Google form or a tweet, we need you to respond and say, yes, you hear us, and you'll do that thing, or just to say that you're out there. Saying that there's one person I've tweeted 3 times, their Twitter account is protected and they haven't got back to me, and I have absolutely no idea whether that person is even listening or taking on board any of the things that we're saying. Touch with us, because we really need to know that you're out there, that we've got to say, or at least you don't have to necessarily respond to us on these Hangouts, but so long as we know you're out there somewhere, that's fine.
Yeah, we don't want to lose anybody. We can't actually physically count you and see your facial expressions unless you send us a picture, of course. So I'm just going to have another look and see if there's any pictures come through. And then I think we're probably about done for today. No, I'm still not seeing any new pictures. Oh well. Okay, so last chance for questions then. So we've talked a lot, and when we've finished, I'll post up that Ranty blog post, so you can please read it carefully and make sure that none of it applies to you, or if it did apply to you, that it doesn't apply to you for topic 2. And then hopefully we can have a much more chatty and progressive session tomorrow, and really get some ideas shared about the topic and get into the real meat of what we're trying to do here. So I'm just going to have a quick look at the questions. No, I'm not seeing anything new. Okay, could we have some just closing thumbs up or smileys? Make sure everyone's happy and clear about what they're doing next. That would be great. Thanks, Carice. Brilliant. I've got a thumbs up and an understood. Fantastic. Right. Okay, in that case then, I think we'll end it there for today, unless there's anything else you wanted to add, Sarah?
No, I think that's okay. you are all doing okay. There's just room for improvement.
Room for improvement, yeah. There's always room for improvement. Yes, that's probably a very, very good summary. Okay, so don't forget then your topic 2 first post by end of today, and then we'll have another chat tomorrow morning, and your topic 2 comments and summary by tomorrow night, midnight. Between now and then, I'm going to be posting my Ranty blog, and Sarah's going to be posting some instructions about comments, so we get some direct links to comments in topic 2, and then we'll be much happier bunnies, and that'll be great. Okay, anything else on the question box, or shall we sign off, Sarah?
There's thumbs up and smiley
Great.
faces.
Great.
So everything seems. See.
Okay, right. We'll say goodbye for now then, and see you all again tomorrow. Okay.
Have a good
Enjoy
evening. The rest of your day.
Bye.